here. Good morning. Y'all know I had a busy weekend if I didn't go live. Busy weekend, great weekend. Almost went live where my location was, but I was like, no, it's okay to just enjoy your weekend. So I almost went live where I was at, but I was like, no, it's okay to put the phone down, enjoy your weekend, and have some fun. So I did. So I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone's doing okay. Like the videos you guys come in. Subscribe to the page as you guys come in. Support the channel. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk About It Media 21. Let's get into some hot topics, trending topics, talk about what's going on. Um, Once you guys come in, it's going to take people a few minutes. So we're just going to allow them time. So I'm going to go ahead and do my disclaimer as people are falling in. So like the video as you guys come in. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Got to stay within that algorithm. So I did do shorts, but I just didn't go live. So thanks for supporting the channel. Um, Please hit the like button. All comments are alleged, period. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. Fair use is use permitted by a copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged in our opinion and for entertainment purposes only. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for being here. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello to everyone. Hello. Hello to everyone. Thank you for being here. Just give me a few seconds to get everything set up. So we're going to do hot topics, trending topics, see what's going on around the world in the news. Lot going on. But yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys did on over the weekend. What was the best part of your weekend? It was amazing. I always like spending time with extended family, and just general people, you know. Always a good vibe around being around really great people that love, appreciate you, and want to see you. Ran into some old friends, so it was a great weekend. So I hope you guys had a great weekend as well. So it's rare for me not to go live on a Saturday or a Sunday, but I needed that time. We're gonna get straight into. Let me see. I'm trying to pick which one I wanna. Like the videos you guys come in. Like the videos you guys come in. I appreciate you for being here. Like the videos you guys come in.
Images of what's happening on the ground there in D.C. And then now there seems to be backtracking on whether the National Guard troops who are deployed will be armed. How is there any legal justification for this?
Well, there's plainly no emergency. America saw a real emergency in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021. That's what a real emergency looks like, an insurrectionary riot against the Capitol of the United States where 140 police officers were wounded. There's nothing like that in D.C. That's why Donald Trump keeps talking about the graffiti, or he talks about the blight of homelessness. What are all those National Guard officers doing other than participating in a completely manufactured crisis? The real public relations emergency was, of course, the Epstein file, and Donald Trump moving to try to change the subject as quickly as possible. So let's hope this doesn't escalate into real problems because of the provocation organized by Donald Trump. In any event, even if there were a real emergency, Donald Trump doesn't have the power to take over the Metropolitan Police Department. He has the power under the Home Rule Act only of directing the mayor of D.C. to give police services in order to provide particular federal protection. In the event of something like a riot or an attack on a foreign dignitary, he could request some kind of police escort. But basically, these people don't really know what they're doing there, and they don't have any specific function. And as the chief of the Metropolitan Police Department put it, that's a very dangerous thing to be introducing that kind of confusion and chaos into the line of command.
So my team is losing.
Like the video. Like the video. Fair use reaction clip.
Republican governors sending additional troops into D.C. to be part of the Trump administration's takeover there. I mean, this means for the people who are deployed to do this, leaving their state, leaving their families, their day-to-day lives for this purpose. Are members of our military, to your knowledge, are they disturbed by any of this, uncomfortable with their service being used in this way on our soil?
Well, certainly the members of the D.C. National Guard, who are directly under the control of the president, despite Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton legislation to try to remove it from the president and give it to D.C. But those people, are put in an uncomfortable position, but at least there's a kind of friendliness about them. When it started, people were taking pictures with them. They were just hanging out at the Washington Monument. They're not interested in provoking any kind of confrontation. But the National Guardsmen coming in from West Virginia and South Carolina and Ohio, who knows what their orders are and who knows what their attitude is coming into the nation's capital. So, this is a moment to de-escalate as quickly as possible. I think that the Trump administration recognized that they didn't have the power, nor did they have the expertise to actually run the D.C. Police Department, and it's not quite clear what all of them are doing. But for people in the resistance and in the opposition, it's a very clear boost for teaching America about the need for D.C. statehood. People in Washington for decades now have been demanding the right to be admitted into the Union. It's passed out of the House of Representatives twice when the Democrats were in control, and just like 37 other states that entered the Union from the original 13, this is a case that absolutely warrants admission to the Union. And so Congress must act. It's a simple majority vote in the House, majority vote in the Senate, and to be signed by the president. But that's very much got to be on the agenda of moving democracy forwards instead of moving democracy backwards to some kind of military rule.
Congressman, you've talked about the influx of troops from other different locales, many of whom we are hearing reports will likely be armed, and you've sort of leaned into the notion of needing to de-escalate before things sort of take a bad turn. With your district being as close to D.C. as it is, what are you hearing from your constituents? Is there any concern there about potential takeover of cities like Baltimore? I know it's been floated, but is there any concern that this may spill out from just beyond D.C. and into other locales? What are you hearing from the people you represent?
Well, the president keeps mentioning Baltimore and Oakland and I believe Chicago and Detroit as the next potential targets in this row of dominoes that are supposed to fall with Trump militarization for no apparent overriding purpose. Remember, crime is down in the District of Columbia to a 30-year low. It's down 25 or 30% just in the last 2 or 3 years. And there are similar drops in crime in Baltimore and other big cities. Some people suggested that Donald Trump is hurrying to get in so he can take credit for these reductions in crime that have taken place. But I think you also have to see the militarization of these big Democrat-run cities, as they put it, in conjunction with the extreme gerrymandering and the imposition of voter disenfranchisement and voter suppression schemes across the country. This is obviously very much on Donald Trump's mind, that the public has really turned against his program, whether you're talking about the ridiculous tariffs and trade war that he's intent on, or you're talking about throwing 17 million Americans off of their Medicaid health care and dismantling SNAP food benefits for tens of millions of people, as well as his breaking of the promise to release the Epstein files. So he would like to change the subject.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Good morning, everyone. Come on in. Say good morning. Thanks for being here.
Militarize the cities and do whatever he can to depress and intimidate the vote by scaring people off from going to the polls in November of next year. Meantime, our party is doing everything in our power to mobilize America to get ready for these elections.
Let me play for you, Congressman, this soundbite from Ed Martin threatening to look into members of the January 6th committee and get your thoughts to it on the other side, because it all plays into this kind of attack by the Trump administration on those who serve in government, and not just cities, but even, as we've seen, institutions, the culture, the Smithsonian. But let me just play this and then get your thoughts on the other side.
Real quick, what about the January 6th committee? Did they destroy evidence? Is there criminality there?
Of course, we're all in that too. And trust me, a lot of people did not get a pardon that were involved in the select committee, and they ought to be keeping an eye on their mailbox, because there's a lot to be asked about.
A not so veiled threat, Congressman. Obviously, you were a key figure in that January 6th committee. Your reaction to that, intimidation nonetheless, but your reaction to what was just said.
Tittle Brothers.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Like the video as you guys come in. Good morning, good morning. Can you guys hear me okay? Press 1 if you guys can hear me okay. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you all.
the election denialism about 2020. He's one of the people who still claims that Donald Trump won an election which he lost by 7 million votes, 306 to 232 in the Electoral College, and he's continued to spread nonsense theories about what happened on January 6th, when Donald Trump, of course, incited a violent insurrection, telling people you got to go and fight like hell, and if you don't, you're not going to have a country anymore, and all the rules are off when there's cheating at stake. And all of that was meant to surround what was going to be an inside political coup as they tried to force Vice President Pence to reject Electoral College votes from key swing states, including Georgia, Arizona, and Michigan, and Pennsylvania. In any event, Pence stood up as a constitutional patriot. That's why they dumped him from their ticket and replaced him with J.D. Vance, who would be a loyal invertebrate supplicant to Donald Trump. But they have not contradicted a single factual finding that was committed to the January 6th Select Committee report, which was produced by a bipartisan committee with more than 1,000 interviews. We looked at more than 1 million pages of documents, and they have not been able to successfully contradict or undermine a single factual statement in there. And yet, like criminals returning to the scene of the crime, they can't leave it alone. They keep coming back to it. So we welcome the opportunity to continue to educate new generations of Americans about how Donald Trump and people like Ed Martin tried to overthrow a presidential election, and they were stopped by the courage of our police officers, as well as political leaders. But 140 of our officers were wounded, injured, hospitalized, many of them disabled and disfigured for life, fighting to protect American democracy. So we're going to keep telling America the truth about it.
Like the video, fair use reaction clip. Come on in, like the video as you guys come in. I appreciate you all being here.
Thank you, Brian. On my last day as the anchor at Fox LA. So
That's
this
right.
is the last time I'm going to be introduced as that.
That's right. Got you in just under the wire here. Well, I wanted to talk to you in particular because we have a big day for California, and as everybody who listens to the show, watches the show knows, Alex is the guy when it comes to California politics. So we have new maps that have just been revealed that show Democrats shoring up about 4 endangered Democratic seats, lean Democratic seats, but also flipping about 5 Republican seats. So this may be a 9-seat gain in total. So first and foremost, what's the sense on the Republican side of the aisle in light of what we're seeing right now?
Well, Republicans are furious, right? I mean, this is a situation where all these long-term members of Congress are essentially going to most likely lose their jobs.
Yeah.
So the members that are most at risk of losing their jobs are Ken Calvert, Kevin Kiley, Darrell Issa, David Valadao. Most likely to be out of a gig because of this. And so they are angry. Kevin Kiley, who is one of Governor Newsom's strongest opponents every single day, seems to tweet about him every single day, ran against him in the recall. He has put forward a motion in the House to try to say, let's have nobody redistrict. Texas don't do this. California don't do this. Stop. This is a bad idea. As a way to potentially save his own job, but it doesn't seem like Speaker Mike Johnson or the Republicans in the House are interested in doing that. Why? Because Donald Trump's not interested in doing that. He's made a very clear directive that he thinks that he deserves, or in his words, entitled to 5 Republican seats in Texas. And so Governor Newsom is saying, okay, well, if you're going to do that, we're going to take 5 Republican seats out of California to, in Governor Newsom's words, neuter what's happening in Texas.
But isn't this just dripping in bad faith that suddenly, when these California representatives, these Republicans from California, face their own districts being redrawn, are they protesting what's happening? I mean, really, this wouldn't happen if it wasn't for Donald Trump and Greg Abbott listening to Donald Trump. So isn't it in really bad faith that suddenly they're mad at California for redrawing these maps when this was all launched just a few weeks earlier by people from their own party?
Well, I was at this press conference yesterday with Governor Newsom and with several different members of the Democratic Congressional Caucus. And I asked them about that. And then member after member stepped up to make that very point. Sidney Conlager-Dove, the Democrat from Culver City, said, stop crying crocodile tears, Kevin Kiley. Where have you been on this issue all along? Where were you when the John Lewis Voting Rights Act was up? Why didn't you vote for that? Basically saying that they don't buy that he's all of a sudden interested in this issue because it hurts him publicly. Maxine Waters, a Democratic congresswoman, stepped up and said, look, we're going to take Texas's playbook and throw it right back at them. We're going to fight on this. Adam Schiff telling me, don't poke the bear, Texas. Don't mess with California. So it is interesting, and you were out there as well. I was out there yesterday, and we've seen a real unified Democratic apparatus in California. And the governor seems to have brought together every sort of special interest group in California that matters in California politics. So who are the most powerful players in California politics? The teachers union, the SEIU union, the IBEW, all of these forces that help fund campaigns, all of them were part of Governor Newsom's launch, all of them speaking at Governor Newsom's launch. You had local members, you had, you had the congressional members, you had the senators, you had members of the Assembly, members of the state Senate, all of them behind it. And California has a 2/3 supermajority in both the Assembly and the Senate. I talked to the leaders of both of those chambers. They say they have the votes. This thing's going to happen. And it has to happen by next Friday.
Alex, are Republicans right now, not just in California, but nationwide, given this development, are they on their heels by virtue of what's happening in California?
Well, maybe not. And this is something that I talked about with Governor Newsom. I'm sure it's something that you talked about with him as well. Because, look, there are more Republican states that you could gerrymander than Democratic states. And so even if Texas goes forward with this and California goes forward with their plan to, in the governor's words, neuter them, what happens if Florida gerrymanders more? What happens if Missouri? What happens if some of these other states jump on this train? And then Democrats would be potentially on the defensive.
Yeah.
So, this thing escalating may not be good for the Democratic Party.
I want to make sure I let people know about an event that you're doing. It's a free virtual event coming up here very soon called She's...
Like the
Do you
video?
sense that there's a sea change happening right now in terms of Democrats taking Newsom's lead and actually fighting fire with fire? And I ask that as a longtime Democrat who has watched this party fail to meet the moment with...
Like the video, fair use reaction clip.
In the Oval Office. The visit will come on the heels of Friday's high-stakes face-to-face chat between Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Anchorage, Alaska. President Trump says he and Putin did not come to an agreement to end the war with Ukraine altogether. However, Trump had initially said that he just wanted this first meeting to lay the groundwork for a more productive talk later on. Putin invited Trump for a sit-down, this time over in Russia, and Trump did not rule it out. Take a listen.
Mr. President, I'd like to thank you very much, and we'll speak to you very soon and probably see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Vladimir.
And next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening.
And this is video right here of President Trump's arrival back in Washington after his sit-down with Putin. Putin expressed that Russia is not interested in a temporary truce, but is instead seeking a long-term settlement that Moscow's interests are taken into account. And in a post on Truth Social today, President Trump explained that Russia and Ukraine won't just have a ceasefire, but rather a peace agreement. Let's pop that up for you on your screen. As he said, a great and very successful day in Alaska. The meeting with President Vladimir Putin of Russia went very well, as did a late-night phone call with President Zelensky of Ukraine and various European leaders, including the highly respected Secretary General of NATO. It was determined by all that the best way to end the horrific war between Russia and Ukraine is to go directly to a peace agreement which would end the war, and not a mere ceasefire agreement, which oftentimes does not hold up. President Zelensky will be coming to D.C., the Oval Office, on Monday afternoon. If all works out, we will then schedule a meeting with President Putin. Potentially, millions of people's lives will be saved. Thank you for your attention to this matter. A lot to discuss here, and I do want to bring in Ivana Stradner, a research fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on this Saturday.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right, so first off, the big question I do want to ask, you saw that post right there from President Trump on Truth Social, and he said a peace agreement is the best way there to end the war altogether, kind of bypassing that ceasefire. Can you explain to me what the difference there really is?
So the difference would be theoretically that ceasefire is to stop fighting right now. Peace agreement is a long-term solution. This sounds great in theory. I'm afraid it's not going to work in practice because President Putin is not interested in a long peace agreement. He is actually more interested in so-called ceasefire that he would use to buy more time, to reposition his military, to strengthen his military, and to continue his quest. We saw yesterday a Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs who was wearing a shirt that emphasized the Soviet Union. It actually tells you all you need to know about Putin's ambition, which is actually to restore so-called Russian greatness. And in order to do so, he needs to buy time. So I'm actually not very optimistic about a long peace solution that is just a piece of paper. Words are cheap for the Kremlin. The only thing that Putin understands is facts and actions. And there are, I think, two things that we need to do. Number one is to make sure to target Russian central gravity, which is economy and especially energy sector, and to stop their war machine. And the second thing is to help Ukraine with all the weapons that Kyiv needs to win this war also on the battlefield. So it's a very complex situation. I understand that a lot of people want to make this situation very simple, but it's not. And we really have to sometimes zoom out and to see the big picture to understand how Putin thinks. He is a former KGB agent who likes to think in terms of zero-sum game, where his win would be a loss for Trump. And here in Washington, we love to talk about cooperation, win-win strategy, etc. That's not how Putin thinks.
All right, Ivana, I do want to pop this up on your screen because this is actually a post coming in from Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine a bit earlier on, as he said, today, following a conversation with President Trump, we further coordinated positions with European leaders. The positions are clear. A pause between Russian invasions. Killings must stop as soon as possible. The fire must cease both on the battlefield and in the sky, as well as against our port infrastructure. All Ukrainian prisoners of war and civilians must be released, and the children abducted by Russia must be returned. Thousands of other people remain in captivity. They all must be brought home. Pressure on Russia must be maintained while the aggression and occupation continue. In my conversation with President Trump, I said that sanctions should be strengthened if there is no trilateral meeting or if Russia tries to evade an honest end to the war. Sanctions are an effective tool. Security must be guaranteed reliably and in the long term with the involvement of both Europe and the U.S. As we mentioned here, Zelensky is expected to meet with President Trump there at the White House. That meeting is set for Monday. What can we expect from that meeting overall, just days after that face-to-face meeting between Trump and Putin?
I think President Trump will be very, very clear that this war was started by Russia, not Ukraine. And it's Putin that should be put like additional pressure on, not Zelensky. My number one concern is about this land swap thing that is going on in Washington, D.C. Forget about that. It's typical Russian game to raise stakes so high to make sure that Zelensky doesn't support that deal. So basically then Russia looks like a reliable actor in these negotiations, and it's Zelensky that we should blame. It's a typical KGB game. As a matter of fact, they're already reporting inside Russia that numerous media agencies got instructions on what they should say and what they should not say. And one of the key points is actually to portray Zelensky as an unreliable partner. The second thing that I firmly agree with President Zelensky, it is we have 20,000 children that were kidnapped and brought to Russia in horrible circumstances over there. So that's another issue that we really need to address as soon as possible. And the third point that already the European Union made earlier today is we also have to make sure that Russian economy is not thriving, because what Putin wants to do is to buy more time, as I mentioned, to reposition his military and to continue. This will be just a pause. Let's not forget that this war did not start in 2022. This war started in 2014. And the West was helping Russia for all those years with economy to boost its economy so they can invest, unfortunately, in war machine. We should not fall for that. And my last point is we should also not fall for Putin's game when he's trying to talk about U.S.-Russia economic relations. That's precisely why he brought business advisors to try to tap into our belief system, that economy and business matter. It's a typical game. We should not fall for it. There is no business without a long-term solution, and Putin should know this.
I have to ask, because we know Alaska was chosen as the meeting place there, and essentially what we heard was Putin say that Trump is invited over to Russia for the next conversation. Is that a realistic situation that could unfold?
I have to admit, I don't believe that President Trump will agree to go to Moscow. Of course, Putin wanted to emphasize this because it's quite embarrassing for the Russian president not to be able to select a spot for the first meeting. It was actually the United States, and it's a power game. So now he's trying to play another game, inviting Trump to Moscow. But here is also another big picture view, which is very important to understand. This whole meeting Putin tried to use to actually show that Russia is equal to the United States. that Russia is still a great power, that Putin is still a very important decision maker in the world. And that's precisely what Putin has been trying to show for years, that there is something called a multipolar world that Russia wants to create, recreate, that Russian greatness. So that's something that we should be paying attention to and not to award him. But, the good news don't sell news these days, but there is something really good. I saw the red carpet, and Putin indeed was walking on that red carpet. We should also emphasize there was also B-2 flying above his head, which is precisely how peace through strength work. Yes, Putin can sweep him off his, President Trump can sweep him off his feet, but there was also a bomber above his head to send a clear message.
Do you think that the meeting there did accomplish?
Like the video. Thanks for being here, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in.
What President Trump set out to accomplish, as he said at first that he was hopeful that this would kind of lay the groundwork for that second meeting to take place. It wasn't about getting a ceasefire done on that specific day, but to move ahead with a plan. We know the meeting lasted for almost 3 hours. So does it appear that that goal was met?
I'm so glad that you mentioned this because there is so much in the news that this meeting was about ceasefire. Actually, it was not. I actually think that President Trump's Putin wanted to have this meeting. Trump gave him this meeting. Now the ball is in Putin's court, and he's the one who should deliver things. So if you perceive that as a goal, yes, then the goal has been accomplished, and now Putin is the one who should deliver what he promised. Otherwise, I'm quite certain that Washington has a plan B for Putin, and Moscow will not like it. Sanctions are on its way.
And I appreciate you mentioning that because there were a lot of reports that were coming out saying that there was no deal reached and that was a disappointment. But again, we heard from President Trump, who did say that the goal again was just to lay the groundwork for a second meeting. Of course, we don't know whether that will be on U.S. soil or elsewhere. We're going to wait to figure that out. My last question here before I let you go, what is it that Russia and Ukraine are not willing to give up during these negotiations?
I don't think that Ukraine is willing to give up its sovereignty to a bully. And I'm also quite certain that Putin is not going to give up its imperialistic ambition. Here in the West, we always like to talk about some tiny issues related to Ukraine. This war is not only about Ukraine. For Putin, this is a truly a war that, along with China and Iran and North Korea, he wants to change the global order and to establish what he likes to call a multipolar world. So that ambition he's not willing to give up. But I also want to emphasize, look, we are the superpower. Russia is not, and we have all the means and tools to punish bullies. And after all, one of the most powerful weapons that Putin has been using so far were nuclear threats. And I'm very pleased to see that President Trump removed that by firing back, by stating, about repositioning of nuclear submarines. That threat is going. We should not fear escalations.
Ivana Stratner, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and help discuss all of this a little bit further. Anything else that we missed? Obviously, there's a lot to touch on, but anything we missed that you want to make sure to mention before I let you go?
Just one thing, that to understand Putin, we have to think like him. And for him, kindness is weakness.
All right. Thank you again for taking the time to join us here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Like the video, fair use, reaction clip. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. Continue to hit the like.
This guy lies, habitually lies. He's never kept a deal he'd ever signed.
I want to play something you said about President Putin. This was right after the invasion in March of 2022. Take a look.
This guy lies, habitually lies. He's never kept a deal he'd ever signed, and he lies all the time. And I don't know why, but he plays this like a violin in the West, because the West wants to believe that you can cut a deal with everybody. You can't cut a deal with guys like this. He's a professional, experienced liar.
Mr. Secretary, given that, what makes you think that if you are able to reach a deal with President Putin, that he would stick to it, based on, as you just said, he's a liar?
Well, that's the point. That's why the deal has to have enforceable mechanisms in it. That's why the deal has to have things like security guarantees. That's the point I was making a few minutes ago when you were asking me about looking someone in the eye. What's important here is actions, not words, not paper, document. Those are all important. Those are elements of a deal, but they have to be enforceable. They have to be verifiable. They have to be enduring. There's no point here in signing a deal that's going to be violated in 3 or 4 months. There's no point in doing that. It actually would make things worse. So that's why this is such a difficult thing. Not only do you need a deal that's verifiable, that's enforceable, and that's enduring. If you don't achieve that, then I think you could have a ceasefire for a few months, a few weeks, and then the war will start again and more people will die. That's not the outcome we're interested in. That's not the outcome anybody wants. So that's why this is so difficult.
So you can't cut deals with a guy like Putin, which is why this administration is now in the midst of cutting deals with a guy like Putin. Just want to make sure I'm understanding here. In fact, not only is this administration trying to cut deals with a guy who they all know is not a good faith negotiating partner, they're actually embarrassing themselves by doing so. Donald Trump literally rolled out the red carpet for Putin just days ago in an effort to strike up a deal. Also that Putin could come here, get a photo, and then bail. And don't take my word for it, take Fox News's.
It was just very unusual, atypical, and I think we're all awaiting, the readout, because the way that it felt in the room was not good. It did not seem like things went well, and it seemed like Putin came in and steamrolled, got right into what he wanted to say, and got his photo next to the president and then left.
So Trump pulled out all the stops for his big summit and ended up with no ceasefire, no second meeting, and no deal. And I'm sorry, but anyone who didn't think Trump would get absolutely rolled is either a fool or has spent so much time up Trump's ass that they haven't gotten enough oxygen to their brains. Of course Trump got played. What incentive is there for Putin to surrender anything when he already knows that he owns Trump? Donald Trump is so desperate for his validation and affection that he will, and has, bent over backwards to give him exactly what he wants at every turn. And in return for that, well, Trump rolled out the red carpet for a murderous dictator. And when I say red carpet, I'm not being facetious. Nothing like pulling out all the stops for a guy who's going to humiliate you on your own turf. In other words, for the better part of a decade, these Republicans have known who Putin is, and yet they're now making the voluntary choice to allow him to roll them. The only thing worse than being Putin's tool is choosing to be Putin's tool. Granted, this isn't even close to the only time that Marco Rubio has sold out for power. Here he is back in 2016.
You compared Donald Trump to a third world dictator yesterday in an interview with the New York Times. How so? Well, I don't know about a dictator. I said a third world strongman. He's running for president, so no matter what, he won't be a dictator unless our republic completely crumbles, which I don't anticipate it will. But yeah, here's what happens in many countries around the world. You have a leader that emerges and basically says, don't put your faith in yourselves, don't put your faith in society, put your faith in me. I'm a strong leader, and I'm going to make things better all by myself. This is very typical. You see it in the third world. You see it a lot in Latin America for decades. It's basically the argument he's making that he single-handedly is going to turn the country around. We've never been that kind of country. We have a president. The president is an American citizen who serves for a period of time, constrained by the constitutions and the powers vested in that office. The president works for the people, not the people for the president. And if you listen to the way he describes himself and what he's going to do, he's going to single-handedly do this and do that without regard for whether it's legal or not. Look, I think people are going to have to make up their mind. I can tell you this, no matter what happens in this election, for years to come, there are many people on the right, in the media, and voters at large that are going to be having to explain and justify how they fell into this trap of supporting Donald Trump, because this is not going to end well.
For years to come, many people on the right are going to have to explain and justify how they fell into this trap of supporting Donald Trump. I think I've got a pretty good idea of where we can start as it relates to that list of people. Am I right, Marco? But the reality is that Rubio knows full well that he's contradicting himself. He knows full well that he's undermining his own stated positions, but it's not about consistency. It's not about long-standing principles. It's not about standing for anything other than your allegiance to one man. That's all the Republican Party is at this point. It is performing for an audience of one. So Rubio may have told the truth about Putin back in 2016, but now all he cares about is making sure that he gets pets from Donald Trump. And so he'll say whatever he has to say, regardless of how hypocritical it makes him look. If dignity was in any way a concern, that ship has long since sailed. And that reality is the perfect microcosm for today's Republican Party more broadly. You've got all of these people who know that they sold their supporters a bill of goods. This is a party that promised lower costs, ended wars, free IVF, no changes to earned benefits, lower inflation, and accountability for those on the Epstein list. Quite literally, none of those promises are being kept. Americans will lose health care. IVF will not be free. Medicaid will be cut. Prices are rising. Inflation is surging. And Trump is burying the Epstein list with the help of nearly every Republican in Washington, D.C. Again, if dignity was even a mild concern, these people wouldn't be able to sleep at night. But the reality is that dignity is not a concern. Their dignity was traded for their blind fealty to Trump a long time ago. Now they exist solely to serve not their constituents, but one man, the God King. That's what they're in office to do, to keep Trump happy no matter the cost. If that means fucking over the very people who voted for him, so be it. Because it's not about you, it's about Trump. In this case, Marco Rubio isn't a bug, he is a feature of the modern GOP. He'll go on TV and listen to his own words get played back to him, and he'll make some pathetic effort to justify the completely obvious hypocrisy, but his explanation would be a lot shorter if he just told the truth. His position changed because it's no longer about the truth or logic or honesty, it is about towing Trump's line. It's about doing apologia for a guy that is so desperate to be in the autocrat club that he'll bring a murderous dictator onto American soil, already disqualifying enough, and
okay, he's on 10 today. Like the video, fair use reaction clip.
With the the person responsible for all that suffering and all that death. It's just heinous, and it's not just Bucha. I mean, it's indiscriminate strikes on apartments that kill not enough innocent civilians to dominate the headlines for days and days. But it's the terror. It's the terror of sending your kid off to school because you want life to be somewhat normal. But you know that any day Russia could bomb anywhere in Ukraine. I mean, it's watching them scrape and struggle to get an American president who supported them to give them all the weapons they needed to go toe-to-toe with Russia. And to see all that potentially erased by an American president who just doesn't give a shit about democracy. He doesn't care about our allies. He doesn't care about a democratic ally's sovereignty.
Like the video as you come in. Like the video as you guys come in.
It's so much to watch.
Thanks for being here, everyone. Like the video as you come in. Like the video as you guys come in.
He's destroying Donald Trump for Trump's attack on our voting rights. Former President Obama just gave a speech in front of a group made up of Texas state Democratic legislators, and former President Obama talked about how the United States was once the envy of the world when it came to voting rights, and how it was authoritarian regimes, dictatorships across the world that would rig their elections, and how the rest of the world used to look to the United States as a shining example of the way democracy is supposed to work until Donald Trump destroyed it. Let's see what former President Obama said. Let's play it.
We've got countries all around the world where the elections are fixed, and whoever's in charge suppresses and makes it hard for the opposition to compete. And we used to be a shining example to those countries, and people would aspire to the kind of true democracy that America had. And we need to get back to that, because that's not just a Democratic or a Republican idea, that's an American idea. That's what we're fighting for.
In addition, former President Obama also talked about how it is so critical right now to stand up for voting rights as Republicans realize that their ideas are failing, that Americans don't like their ideas, so they have to rig the game. Play this clip.
The problem that we've been...
Don't forget to hit subscribe, you guys. We're trying to hit 50K by next month. If all 140 hit subscribe, that'll be a great day. Please hit the subscribe button, and thank you.
Not just recently, but this goes back a while.
Let's continue, fair use.
That the Republicans increasingly recognize their ideas won't sell.
Now let me show you a longer portion of President Obama's speech before these Texas Democratic legislators. Play this clip.
But I am more grateful to you and the rest of the delegation for your sacrifice and what you've done. And it is important for you to understand that highlighting what is happening in Texas has galvanized and mobilized folks across the country. So I think in these kinds of battles, there's a tendency sometimes to be frustrated because the game's a little fixed in Texas. You know, legislative maps have been drawn in ways that entrench one party rather than creating an even playing field. And so sometimes there might have been a temptation to just kind of sit back and let it happen. And I think thanks to the leadership of people like you, the leadership of Leader Wu, all of the members who have taken this stand, we're slowly waking people up to the realities of what's happening right now. And let me just say a little bit about this, and then I'll turn it over to Attorney General Holder. Both he and I believe that the right way to do democracy is not to have the people who are already in office select who's going to vote for them, but have the people of America vote and select who's going to represent them.
That's right, yeah.
And it would be our preference that that was done in a non-biased way, that an independent commission or some sort of neutral approach was taken so that Democrats and Republicans compete fairly. The lines aren't drawn to advantage one party or another, and the people decide based on their ideas. The problem that we've been seeing, not just recently, but this goes back a while, is that the Republicans increasingly recognize their ideas won't sell, so we've got to fix the game a little bit. And by drawing maps that splinter Democratic voting blocks, by packing in Democrats into one district so that they don't have influence in other districts, all those things can have an impact of weakening the impact of Democratic votes and strengthening and increasing the influence of Republican voters. And that's not fair. That's not how democracy is supposed to work. The thing that we've also come to recognize, though, and I think Eric, who's been working on this redistricting issue for almost a decade now, what we all recognize is we can't let a systematic assault on democracy just happen and stand by. And so because of your actions, because of your courage, what you've seen is California responding, other states looking at what they can do to offset this mid-decade gerrymandering that is highly irregular and is not what we should be doing to balance out the maps for this upcoming election. And my hope is that rather than have a race to the bottom where every district is predetermined based on how it's drawn, that over time, the American people, ideally with the help of the courts, realizes that there's a better way. And I think that will happen, but it requires civic education, it requires mobilization, it requires activation of the sort that you have just described and that you guys are representative of. You're setting an example for what all of us have to do.
What does feeling safe at home really mean to you? For a long time, I thought it was enough to have good locks and maybe an alarm that would make a lot of
like the video, fair use, reaction clip, like the video.
noise if somebody actually broke in. But after people close to me were broken into,
Don't forget to subscribe. There's about 110 in the building. Please hit the subscribe button. We're trying to hit 50K by next month.
realize that real security means preventing that break-in, that violation of your space from ever happening in the first place. That's why I trust SimpliSafe to protect my home and my family.
Like
it's
the
about security
video.
that is proactive, not just reactive. Someone's lurking, the agents talk to them in real time, turn on spotlights, and can call the police. SayFE.com/.
And so, because of the struggles and the fights, and because of the courts recognizing they had a role to play in strengthening rather than weakening democracy.
If you told me
like the video, fair use, reaction clip. Thanks for being here, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good afternoon to some. Thanks for being here.
Got systematically stronger during my lifetime, and most of the lifetimes of most of the people who are in that conference room that you guys are sitting in. The problem is, I think there's a tendency to take it for granted. And I think we became a little bit complacent over the years. We assumed that things would continue to get better, that our democracy would become more inclusive, that it would become more fair, that we'd make it easier for people to vote rather than harder for people to vote, that the votes would be counted rather than suppressed. And what we forgot is that history doesn't always move in a straight line, and it's not always 2 steps forward and another 2 steps forward. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward and a step back. And we're in a moment right now where not just gerrymandering, but efforts at voter suppression, efforts at questioning the results of elections, efforts at the executive branch unilaterally doing things that bypass Congress and the people's representatives, militarization of cities, politicization of our justice departments and our military. Those are trend lines that remind us that this precious democracy that we've got is not a given. It's not self-executing. It requires us to fight for it. It requires us to stand up for it. And so, as tired as y'all may be, a little, and missing home and ready to get a change of clothes because you didn't pack enough and all that, I want all of you to be returning feeling invigorated and know that you have helped to lead what is going to be a long struggle. It's not going to be resolved right away, and it's going to require ultimately the American people understanding the stakes and realizing that we cannot take our freedoms and our democracy for granted. You've helped set the tone for that, and I'm grateful for it.
And here is the incredible way that Obama closes this speech. Let's play it.
And maybe one last thing I want to point out, because obviously we're talking to Democrats, but the stakes that are involved right now actually impact Republicans as well.
Yeah.
The Republican Party started as a party that was the party of Lincoln. Illinois Republicanism was about expanding and protecting the Union and democracy and perfecting. And when I got to Washington, when I was in the state legislature like all of you, there were differences between Democrats and Republicans, but there was still the capacity to work together. And when I got to the Senate, there were Republicans who I disagreed with on certain issues, but there was an agreement on the rules and decorum and conduct. But there were some things that were bigger than party. And I think there are still a bunch of Republicans out there voters, as well as some of your colleagues, some people in Washington, who would like to see a return to a sense of fairness and a sense of independence, where a Republican legislature, just like a Democratic legislator, could listen to their district and the people they represent, and sometimes break with the White House, and sometimes do things based on their conscience, and not try to fix the rules or rig the rules in ways that just shove through the agenda of a narrow faction. And when we have fair voting rights, and we have fair maps, and we're fairly competing, that's good for everybody, not just one side. And that's what we should be aspiring to over the long term, is a situation in which there are rules that are fair for everybody, and then we compete. Just like a basketball game. We started off talking about George Gervin. We wouldn't want to be in a game where if one team gets down, suddenly they get to change the rules. Right. Suddenly their baskets count for 4 points, and yours only count for 2. You wouldn't want to be in a basketball game where the other team starts to lose, and suddenly they want to hire the ref and put in their own cousin to referee the game. And so the beauty of our democracy, just like any other system we build, is when we protect the integrity of the process. And that's what's at stake here, is the integrity of the process. And when you have a process that has integrity, when you have a democracy that has integrity, then sometimes you may lose an issue. Sometimes you may lose a vote. Sometimes the other side wins an election. And they do some things that you don't like, but you know, because it's fair, if you can persuade the people next time, then you can take the country in a better direction. That's what we need. That's what this country stands for. That's why it's been the envy of the world. You've got countries all around the world where the elections are fixed, and whoever's in charge suppresses and makes it hard for the opposition to compete. And we used to be a shining example to those countries, and people would aspire to the kind of true democracy that America had. And we need to get back to that, because that's not just a Democratic or a Republican idea, that's an American idea. That's what we're fighting for. All right? I love y'all.
Powerful words there by former President Obama. Tell me what you think. I'd like to see more speeches by him, if I'm being honest. I'd like to see him out there more, because every time he speaks, it's so on point, it's so inspiring. Let me know what you think. Leave comments below. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million.
So do y'all, let me know what y'all think about everything that's going on in the world. We're going to get to some hot topics, trending topics. Give me a second. Let me know what y'all think about Wendy Williams was recently spotted out and about going out to dinner. Concerned that Wendy is still under this conservatorship, y'all, and whether, you know, she has health concerns or not, why can't she be near her family, by her family?
Wendy, how are you tonight, and what brings you out?
Coming out to eat. It's dinner time.
And any reactions to your medical report that does hold up the dementia diagnosis?
No, and my attorneys are highly upset.
They are?
Yes, my attorneys are highly upset.
Okay, good.
Diamond, yeah.
And what about do you have anything you want to say to your conservator?
I want to say hi to my attorney, Alan Diamond, all right, and Joe.
Cool.
Joe Tacopina.
Cool.
Those are my attorneys, and I will get out of guardianship.
Good for her for speaking. Everybody is so concerned. Follow the money. How is it that they can just whisk her away from her family? Someone had to have called. Someone had to have called. And remember, she traveled to be next to her family, and they expected her to go back, and she did. I'm wondering what would have happened if she would have stayed in Florida. The biggest thing is she should be near her family, by her family. They don't even know if all her money has been spent. This is a big thing for celebrities. Be careful. There are people that could just throw a conservatorship under you, by you, near you, control your finances. A lot of times her family members can't call her. Wendy has to call her family. So anything could happen and she won't know until she calls them. This is so concerning. And then we often hear how many people want to put certain celebrities under a conservatorship. They're looking at Wendy's situation and they're concerned. Baby, follow the money. What's in her bank accounts? How much is in her bank accounts? They sold her place and now she's in this facility. And most likely her money is being used to put her in this facility she don't want to be in. So why is it that she doesn't have a say-so? That she no longer wants to be there? Why not move her, transfer her to where her family is? Because guess what? That means the documents transfer. That means the documents are going to transfer. And they may not want nobody looking into those documents of what has happened, what's happened to her money. Y'all got to be careful. This is the biggest thing. If she would have been near her family when all this happened, her family would have been able to fight a little bit more. But they're out of this, they're not even in the city she's in. And have you noticed certain people are able to pick her up and spend time with her? Kudos to who's that one host she had? Susan. Susan and her husband was able to spend time with her. This gentleman has been able to spend time with her, but they're saying she still has the health concerns. I don't want to name what they are. They're still stating she still has the health concerns and she's going to remain in this situation. That's some dirty work. Follow the money. Follow the money. Follow the money. She should be able to be near her family and she should be able to choose a facility that's comfortable for her. We don't know all the situations of what happened in this most recent medical report, but they're saying it's going to be upheld. And they're stated it's going to be upheld. So sad. So sad. While of another famous person, I don't want to mention, there's another famous person, their family is able to take care of him, but not in Wendy's case. Being with that bank, you guys know what I'm talking about, being with that bank. And it's interesting how most of her money was in one bank account. She didn't have a lot of money spread out. That's another thing to teach these celebrities. Have your money spread out. And it's up to your accountant to figure it out. And you use mainly the one account, but you should always have two accounts, two different banks. That's the other way how they got her. You know what I mean? And this is the biggest thing. There was a concern in regards to them stating if people were pulling money out, if she was knowledgeable about them pulling money out. Sad. It's a sad day. It's a sad situation. They mentioned this situation is going to be upheld. They mentioned that last week. Well wishes to Wendy. Well wishes to Wendy. I'm happy about the one attorney she has. She really likes him. Many people are happy that Joe has stepped in to try and help her. But will she be able to get under this guardianship, y'all? It's so sad to see her like this. And we understand she had concerns while she was taping, but, her health concerns has been an issue for a while. Well wishes to Wendy. It's so sad. It's so sad. Some people are just now coming in. I'll let you guys hear what she said. Oops, let me go back. Like the video as you guys come in. Like the video as you guys come in. I got to be careful with there's a lot of stuff that's going on in regards to those reality shows.
To your medical report that does hold up the dementia diagnosis?
No, and my attorneys are highly upset.
They are?
Yes, my attorneys are highly upset.
Okay, good.
Diamond, yeah.
And what about do you have anything you want to say to your conservator?
I want to say hi to my attorney, Alan Diamond, all right, and Joe.
Cool.
Joe Tacopina.
Cool.
Those are my attorneys, and I will get out of guardianship.
So well wishes to Wendy. She says she getting out, y'all. We got to send her well wishes. There's a lot of times people will go where she's at. They'll be in, outside, and they're waving at her just to kind of just show her some love. But it's sad that she's even in this situation. It's so sad. Okay. I was going to do hot topics, trending topics, but you guys, there's a lot of reality stuff going on. And I don't really do reality show stuff because I just think it's ratchet and it doesn't protect the family. So I really didn't want to get into a lot of hot topics, trending topics, because a lot of that stuff is so ratchet. I can't. The Zeus stuff, Bravo, they don't do a lot to protect families. If you want to, do something to cause an issue where you can go to jail, that reality stuff I can't get with. I'm all about protecting families. Like the video as y'all come in. Like the video as y'all come in.
My 2025 just got a whole lot better.
Like the video. So I definitely wanted to cover the Wendy Williams stuff. I just feel bad for Wendy. I do. I feel bad for Wendy.
Trump has made a lot of big moves recently. Every time he wears a dark...
I got to be careful with that music as well.
Justification for this. And Jamie Raskin joins us now. He's the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, you see the images of what's happening on the ground there in D.C., and then now there seems to be backtracking on whether the National Guard troops who are deployed will be armed. How is there any legal justification for this?
Well, there's plainly no emergency. America saw a real emergency in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021. That's what a real emergency looks like, an insurrectionary riot against the Capitol of the United States where 140 police officers were wounded. There's nothing like that in D.C. That's why Donald Trump keeps talking about the graffiti, or he talks about the blight of homelessness. What are all those National Guard officers doing other than participating in a completely manufactured crisis? The real public relations emergency was, of course, the Epstein file, and Donald Trump moving to try to change the subject as quickly as possible. So let's hope this doesn't escalate into real problems because of the provocation organized by Donald Trump. In any event, even if there were a real emergency, Donald Trump doesn't have the power to take over the Metropolitan Police Department. He has the power under the Home Rule Act only of directing the mayor of D.C. to give police services in order to provide particular federal protection. In the event of something like a riot or an attack on a foreign dignitary, he could request some kind of police escort. But basically, these people don't really know what they're doing there, and they don't have any specific function. And as the chief of the Metropolitan Police Department put it, that's a very dangerous thing to be introducing that kind of confusion and chaos into the line of command.
Congressman, what do you make of these Republican governors sending additional troops into D.C. to be part of the Trump administration's takeover there? I mean, this means for the people who are deployed to do this, leaving their state, leaving their families, their day-to-day lives for this purpose. Are members of our military, to your knowledge, are they disturbed by any of this, uncomfortable with their service being used in this way on our soil?
Well, certainly the members of the D.C. National Guard, who are directly under the control of the president, despite Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton legislation to try to remove it from the president and give it to D.C. But those people are put in an uncomfortable position, but at least there's a kind of friendliness about them. When it started, people were taking pictures with them. They were just hanging out at the Washington Monument. They're not interested in provoking any.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. There's about 124 in the building. If I can get all 124 to please hit the subscribe button. We're trying to hit 50K by next month. Thank you.
Kind of confrontation, but the National Guardsmen coming in from West Virginia and South Carolina and Ohio, who knows what their orders are and who knows what their attitude is coming into the nation's capital. So, this is a moment to de-escalate as quickly as possible. I think that the Trump administration recognized that they didn't have the power, nor did they have the expertise to actually run the D.C. Police Department, and it's not quite clear what all of them are doing. But for people in the resistance and in the opposition, it's a very clear boost for teaching America about the need for D.C. statehood. People in Washington for decades now have been demanding the right to be admitted into the Union. It's passed out of the House of Representatives twice when the Democrats were in control, and just like 37 other states that entered the Union from the original 13, this is a case that absolutely warrants admission to the Union. And so Congress must act. It's a simple majority vote in the House, majority vote in the Senate, and to be signed by the president. But that's very much got to be on the agenda of moving democracy forwards instead of moving democracy backwards to some kind of military rule.
Congressman, you've talked about the influx of troops from other different locales, many of whom we are hearing reports will likely be armed, and you've sort of leaned into the notion of needing to de-escalate before things sort of take a bad turn. With your district being as close to D.C. as it is, what are you hearing from your constituents? Is there any concern there about potential takeover of cities like Baltimore? I know it's been floated, but is there any concern that this may spill out from just beyond D.C. and into other locales? What are you hearing from the people you represent?
Well, the president keeps mentioning Baltimore and Oakland and I believe Chicago and Detroit as the next potential targets in this row of dominoes that are supposed to fall with Trump militarization for no apparent overriding purpose. Remember, crime is down in the District of Columbia to a 30-year low. It's down 25 or 30% just in the last 2 or 3 years. And there are similar drops in crime in Baltimore and other big cities. Some people suggested that Donald Trump is hurrying to get in so he can take credit for these reductions in crime that have taken place. But I think you also have to see the militarization of these big Democrat-run cities, as they put it, in conjunction with the extreme gerrymandering and the imposition of voter disenfranchisement and voter suppression schemes across the country. This is obviously very much on Donald Trump's mind, that the public has really turned against his program, whether you're talking about the ridiculous tariffs and trade war that he's intent on, or you're talking about throwing 17 million Americans off of their Medicaid health care and dismantling SNAP food benefits for tens of millions of people, as well as his breaking of the promise to release the Epstein files. So he would like to change the subject and do whatever he can to depress and intimidate the vote by scaring people off from going to the polls in November of next year. Meantime, our party is doing everything in our power to mobilize America to get ready for these elections.
Let me play for you, Congressman, this soundbite from Ed Martin threatening to look into members of the January 6th committee and get your thoughts to it on the other side, because it was into this kind of attack by the Trump administration on those who serve in government, and not just cities, but even, as we've seen, institutions, the culture, the Smithsonian. But let me just play this and then get your thoughts on the other side.
Real quick, what about the January 6th committee? Did they destroy evidence? Is there criminality there?
Of course, we're all in that too. And trust me, a lot of people did not get a pardon that were involved in the select committee, and they ought to be keeping an eye on their mailbox, because there's a lot to be asked about.
A not-so-veiled threat, Congressman. Obviously, you were a key figure in that January 6th committee. Your reaction to that, intimidation nonetheless, but your reaction to what was just said?
Well, it's absurd. I mean, Ed Martin has been trafficking in January 6th conspiracy theories, just like he traffics in the election denialism about 2020. He's one of the people who still claims that Donald Trump won an election which he lost by 7 million votes, 306 to 232 in the Electoral College, and he's continued to spread nonsense theories about what happened on January 6th, when Donald Trump, of course, incited a violent insurrection, telling people you got to go and fight like hell, and if you don't, you're not going to have a country anymore, and all the rules are off when there's cheating at stake. And all of that was meant to surround what was going to be an inside political coup as they tried to force Vice President Pence to reject Electoral College votes from key swing states, including Georgia, Arizona, and Michigan, and Pennsylvania. In any event, Pence stood up as a constitutional patriot. That's why they dumped him from their ticket and replaced him with J.D. Vance, who would be a loyal invertebrate supplicant to Donald Trump. But they have not contradicted a single factual finding that was committed to the January 6th Select Committee report, which was produced by a bipartisan committee with more than 1,000 interviews. We looked at more than 1 million pages of documents, and they have not been able to successfully contradict or undermine a single factual statement in there. And yet, like criminals returning to the scene of the crime, they can't leave it alone. They keep coming back to it. So we welcome the opportunity to continue to educate new generations of Americans about how Donald Trump and people like Ed Martin tried to overthrow a presidential election, and they were stopped by the courage of our police officers, as well as political leaders. But 140 of our officers were wounded, injured, hospitalized, many of them disabled and disfigured for life, fighting to protect American democracy. So we're going to keep telling America the truth about it.
Like the video, like the video, like the video. Fair use reaction clip. Let me know how y'all feel about everything that's going on in the news. Let me know how you feel about everything that's going on in the news. Don't forget to subscribe, you guys. We're trying to hit 50K by month. There's about 109 people in the building. Please don't forget to subscribe. There's about 109 people in the building. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
There are reports that the president supports a Putin proposal, which would essentially give over Donbass, that entire region or most of it, to the Russians. It's a place that 6.5 million Ukrainians were living prior to the start of this war. So why do something that would seem like a reward to somebody who has attacked a sovereign country?
We were in the room, Shannon, as a mediator, and the president, as a mediator, was looking for ways to solve the crisis. He understands that it is for the Ukrainians to decide how they might land swap, how they might make a deal with the Russians on different territories there. But that's why Zelensky and the Europeans are coming to the White House on Monday to make those decisions themselves.
But are reports accurate or inaccurate that the president does support that ask from Putin?
I think the president supports a peace deal, Shannon, and he got through almost all of it in Alaska. I mean, I was personally surprised at the amount of wins that we had that day. It was right down the line. We agreed on much more robust security guarantees. The Russians agreed on enshrining legislatively language that would prevent them from, or they would attest to not attempting to take any more land from Ukraine after a peace deal, where they would attest to not violating any European borders. So we got through quite a bit, and there's a whole lot more.
But it's understandable that President Zelensky would be very cautious about those, promises potentially from the Putin administration. I mean, he says giving up those particular regions would provide Russia a perfect staging ground for future attacks. So how do you factor that concern, a very real concern, into these conversations?
Look, he's a strong president for his country, and we were on the phone with President Zelensky moments after the Alaska summit ended. And I can tell you that I spoke to him personally, gave him my view. The president obviously was making the presentation, and everybody recognized on that telephone call, and there were various European leaders, how much progress we had made in demonstrating that the Russian Federation was going to make significant accommodations well beyond what we thought before that summit started. So it was absolutely acknowledged as a win. Now, that being said, there are details. That's what happens in a negotiation. You try to move one side towards the middle, then you try to move the other side towards the middle. The president achieved that, certainly in my view and in the view of many others as well, but I was sitting right there. The president achieved that beyond what everyone's expectations were. And now we're immediately moving to a meeting with the Ukrainians, with the Europeans, and hopefully we can narrow the issues down even further and get ourselves well along the way towards the codification of a peace deal.
So there were managing of the expectations, as you mentioned, going into this, but the president had said numerous times, and he said in the past that he wants a ceasefire, and he was hoping to get one going in. Here's what he said when he was asked just days ago about what would happen if President Putin did not agree to end the war or a ceasefire going into this conversation.
If Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday,
yes, they will. Yeah.
What will those consequences?
There will be consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will. I don't have to say there will be very severe consequences. Yes.
You know, he told Brett Baier on the plane that he would be very unhappy if he came away from this without a ceasefire. So how do you call this a win if you didn't get that?
Shannon, a ceasefire, as you know, is a condition precedent, generally speaking, before a peace deal. So in that context, the president has always talked about a ceasefire until he made a lot of different wins in this meeting and began to realize that we could be talking about a peace deal. The ultimate deal here is a peace deal. And we were talking about much more robust security guarantees than anyone ever imagined before. We were talking about EU admission. There was all kinds of subject matter discussed here that began to lead the president to the assumption that we could finish this thing with a peace deal and really end the killing almost immediately. And that's what we went for. That's what real deal makers do, and that's what he did. And it was really an amazing feat for me to watch happen.
So let's talk about the optics of this, because of course the president's critics were unhappy, but some of the supporters too, worried about what signal or message this sent. The red carpet, the hugging, they're looking very collegial at this meeting. The Wall Street Journal editorial board says this: the Russian achieved one of his major goals from the summit, which is the start of his rehabilitation as a world leader. The summit ended his isolation from the West, and he gave up nothing for it. He also appears to have gained more time to continue bombing Ukrainian cities and slowly taking more territory. Why give him that optics, Lynn?
Look, I think from our standpoint, and I would imagine the president would say this, but you're asking me the question. From our standpoint, we're concerned with outperforming where we thought we were going to perform, and we did. We moved the Russians significantly past where we thought they were going to end up. Now, I had 6 separate sessions with President Putin before this, and I thought that we had some measure of success, but this was epic, what we achieved. That's just a flat-out fact. And so that's what I think we ought to be focusing on, what the end result is. I think that we are a whole lot closer to eliminating death on the battlefield in Ukraine and Russia. And isn't that the overall goal? That would be my goal, and I think that's the president's goal. So I think we did what we were supposed to do, better than what people estimated we would achieve.
So let's talk about the security guarantees, because you mentioned those. What does that mean in practicality? What is the U.S. willing to commit to that effort to give Ukraine the assurances it needs to come to the table?
It means that the United States is potentially prepared to be able to give Article 5 security guarantees, but not from NATO, directly from the United States and other European countries. That is big. I mean, really big.
Does it mean boots on the ground? What does it mean? But logistically.
Like the video, like the video. There's about 117 in the building. Please hit the subscribe button. Continue to hit the like, you guys. We got to get the likes up. We should be at 150 likes. Please double tap the screen to hit the like button, and thank you.
I think part of the discussion that we're going to have on Monday throughout the day, because there's going to be breakout sessions there, is exactly the specifics of what the Ukrainians feel that they need. Because remember, as mediators, we were at this summit to advance the Ukrainian position, and we did that, and we did it successfully. Now it's for us to drill down on the granular details of exactly what the Ukrainians need to give them a sense of security in the future, and by the way, what the Europeans need as well. And we were fully committed to be there for that purpose.
All right, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.
You are the person with the gun. The person who would do anything to protect the ones you love. But did you know that you could go to jail?
Like the video, like the video.
Right thing?
Fair use reaction clip. Okay, you guys, that's everything I want to talk about today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe.
6 hours focusing on what on.
Hold on.
U.S. versus Russia, kinda. Really, Russia versus Ukraine. It would have been great to hear that.
Hold on.
To a ceasefire, and gradually we're going to leave all their stolen land from Ukraine and just go back to their borders. But that was going to happen. In reality, this was just the beginning of the end, I believe, of the nearly 4-year war. Why would I say that? Well, the status quo is not okay with us, not okay with Ukraine, not okay with Europe, and dare I say Russia. More importantly, it's not okay with President Trump. And he has an A plan, and he's got a B plan. This is the A plan.
And the president, as a mediator, was looking for ways to solve the crisis. He understands that it is for Ukrainians to decide how they might land swap, how they might make a deal with the Russians on different territories there. But that's why Zelensky and the Europeans are coming to the White House on Monday to make those decisions themselves.
It's up to the Ukrainians to make these conditions. We have to make enough progress so that we can sit down President Zelensky and President Putin in the same place, which is what President Zelensky's been asking for, and reach a final agreement that ends this war.
Yes, for Ukraine and Russia to reach an agreement. We're trying to bring both sides together. So what do we learn from this summit? Number one, Putin wants to freeze the lines he has grabbed and the entire Donbass region, even areas he cannot take militarily, which is rich in iron, rich in coal, rich in rare earth. While I can't see dislodging Russia from the 18% of Ukraine that they stole, I can't see them being gifted the strategic land known as the Fortress Belt either. We also know there is no immediate ceasefire. What else have we learned? Well, that the Russians didn't ask for 2 disputed regions, Sumy and Kharkiv. That's significant. And Vladimir Putin no longer objects to security guarantees, which include international forces, which is the only true block to another invasion. But still, some say it's not a win without a ceasefire.
Not only do you need a deal, you need a deal that's verifiable, that's enforceable, and that's enduring. If you don't achieve that, then I think you could have a ceasefire for a few months, a few weeks, and then the war will start again and more people will die. That's not the outcome we're interested in.
Right, so why not hit them with secondary sanctions already? Give the Ukrainians $300 billion in frozen Russian funds. Slap tariffs on China. Slap them on Brazil and Turkey for doing business in Russia, like buying their cheap oil. We could, we still might, but not yet. Why? Simple. It eliminates peace as an option.
The moment the president puts those additional sanctions, that's the end of the talks. You've basically locked in at least another year to year and a half of war and death and destruction. We may unfortunately wind up there, but we don't want to wind up there. We want to wind up with a peace deal that ends this war so Ukraine can go on with the rest of their lives and rebuild their country and be assured that this is never going to happen again. That's the goal here. We're going to do everything possible to make that happen if it's doable.
It's doable and frustratingly true. Maybe a ceasefire is not what we want. As for what was accomplished Friday leading into the meeting with our European allies tomorrow, including President Zelensky, all the issues are being confronted and addressed in a compressed timeline. As for the optics, I love the flyover. Could have done without the red carpet, but I love the theme on the step and repeat behind the leaders. They're focusing on pursuing peace. But
there's about 166 in the building. If I can please get 166 people to hit the subscribe button. Please hit the subscribe button. We're trying to hit 50K by next month. Please subscribe and thank you. Continue to hit the like button, you guys. If you're watching from a phone, press 1. If you're watching from a phone, press 1. Double tap the screen, please. Let's get the likes to 80. Please double tap the screen to get the likes to 80. Hit the thumbs up above the video, below the video. Let's get the likes to 80 so we can continue. Double tap the screen, please, and thank you. Double tap the screen. To hit the like button, it's free. Let's get the likes up. We're at 24 likes. Let's get the likes up so we can continue. Please double tap the screen. Please double tap the screen and thank you. Thank you. Let's get the likes up. Thank you. There's certain quotas and it keeps me in the algorithm. Continue to hit the like button. Let's continue fair use ration clip.
the usual critics lined up.
But although it was presented as perhaps a show of power by being at a US Air Force base with the flight passing of the B-52s, it did certainly look much more like a show of appreciation for Vladimir Putin.
Vladimir Putin got the red carpet treatment on American soil. Donald Trump got flattered by Vladimir Putin.
He left without Trump even applying any additional sanctions or severe measures, such as President Trump said that he would. So I guess you call that Putin 1, Trump 0.
I sense that they would have been critical regardless. And in terms of the final score, it is not the final score. If you feel, and I love Ambassador Volker, but if you feel that way, then it's 1-0. Just keep in mind, this game has just begun, but it is turning around the backstretch. Stop focusing on the process starts, which was Friday, and look at where the finish line is.
All these media analysts who said this was a bust, that's ridiculous. We have progress we didn't have before. We have momentum for peace. We'll see where it goes. So I'll leave it up to Trump.
So joining me now, Fox News senior strategic analyst, General Jack Keane, 4-star general. He also writes the Institute for the Study of War. He gives you an idea of what's happening almost as it happens in real time. General, what was your takeaway from Friday?
Yeah, well, I think the major things that happened are largely positive. And one is Putin asked for this meeting. That in itself was a big statement, an in-person meeting. The president wanted Zelensky at it. Putin said no, but tentatively agreed to the possibility of that based on how the initial meeting went with President Trump. And why did Putin want the meeting? Well, I think he wants to avoid tariffs and sanctions for sure. And he would like to talk to the president and wind up putting some pressure on Zelensky as a result of it, try to separate the president from Zelensky and from the Euros, who are supporting him. So, obviously he has some objectives here, to be sure. The president deserves credit for getting him there. He would not have gotten there without the threat of the sanctions and what happened in India with the 50% tariff that's been slapped on him. And I've always believed that our adversaries have had to reset and reassess as a result of a very successful military strike on Iran, which ended their nuclear program and begun to reset the table in the Middle East. And everybody has paid attention to that in terms of its decisiveness and certainly the geopolitical impacts that are coming from it. And it says, unstated, that President Trump is a no-nonsense, serious person. He certainly wants peace, but he's not going to hesitate to use force to stop something bad from happening. So I think, put all that together, Putin comes to meet with President Trump. I think coming out of that, are we disappointed that we didn't get a ceasefire and the killing stopped? Yeah, of course. And I think President Trump feels the same way about it. But the fact that they didn't get into the specifics of what took place and where the agreements were and where the disagreements still lie, because there's so much work in progress there. You know, people walk away and say, well, there's nothing there. Nothing happened but a red carpet and a flyover. Well, that's nonsense. A lot of things have happened here. And the reality is there's a potential trilateral meeting, including President Zelensky. I think the president's going to assess that based on what is happening here in Washington, D.C. And let's look at this. We got all the senior leaders in Europe. They're here now for a meeting tomorrow with the president. And this includes the Secretary General. All the top leaders of the European countries are here. And obviously President Zelensky is here with his team. And what are they all working on? They're all working on peace with President Trump. That in itself is a huge step forward to see that kind of unity here. Very positive thing going forward. I think really a lot of discussion tomorrow, Brian, is...
Right. Go ahead.
A lot of discussion tomorrow is going to center around one of the positive things that has come out of the Friday meeting, and that is security guarantees were asked for, and Putin said yes. That's a reasonable approach. That's a statement. It's not action, but it's something that has never been said before. And a lot of time on Monday is going to be devoted to what those security guarantees are. And if those security guarantees take the form of Article 5 like troops on the ground, backed up by air power.
There's about 141 in the building. If I can please get 50 people to hit the like button and subscribe button. Please hit the subscribe button so we can get to 50K by next month. Please don't forget to subscribe. There's 140 something in the building. Continue to hit subscribe and thank you.
To make certain that to provide a deterrence against Putin.
Let's continue fair use.
We have a ceasefire. There's some kind of permanent agreement in place, and you have those security guarantees that it holds in place. If that is real and it takes form, that is a game changer in of itself. And that is an incredible positive outcome from the Friday's meeting. That is what President Zelensky has wanted from the beginning, and that is what the United States wants.
So I want you to take a look at this map, what Russia wants. They want areas of the Donbass that they have not won, that's been fortified by the Ukrainians since 2014, and it's vital because it also provides a highway right to Kharkiv. They could swap that for Sumy and Kharkiv. Your thoughts about that one area that it looks like Zelensky does not want to give up, and I'm sympathetic towards his belief.
Well, as we've talked about it, for a week now, there's a fortified piece of that terrain in there. It encompasses 5 cities that they haven't been able to take in the last 26 months, and they've thrown their army at it. They tried in 2014 with considerably less than an army, failed miserably. And based on our analysis at the Institute for the Study of War, and I know where our military analysis is on it, the guys that are in Europe looking at this every day, they couldn't take it in the foreseeable future either. But that everything begins to change in terms of what land is available and what swaps should be made if those Article 5 guarantees are really real. And that actually, this is Zelensky's issue, all right? Shaped by the Europeans and also discussed by the president and his team. He has to make the decisions about what land to give up. And could he get portions of Zaporizhzhia or portions of Kherson or others in return? But I think everything is on the table given the Article 5 guarantees if they're real.
I know. And you're pumped up by that, and so am I. Hopefully this continues to make progress, and the Russians stand by what they said in that meeting. General Jack Keane, you're the best. Thanks so much. I went to Brian Kilmeade.
Like the video. Can I please get 145 people to hit the subscribe button? It'll be a great day if all 145 hit the subscribe button. Okay, you guys, we covered the news. We covered a little bit of hot topics, trending topics. There was a lot of reality show stuff that was trending. I don't really do reality trending stuff. We talked Wendy Williams. I did do some shorts this morning. There's a video clip of Wendy speaking about her conservatorship. There's a few other shorts I did. But yeah, it was a light day. I'm sure more news came out as I was live. But I did Wendy Williams. I did Mr. Diggs and his dating history. We did Angela Simmons. Go check that out. Her dating history. And Pete Davis talks about, should he have announced his girlfriend's pregnancy? A lot of times you're supposed to wait till after a certain trimester. He announced it. He seems happy. He seems at peace. So kudos to Pete Davis for, his first child. He's expecting his first child. So go check out those shorts. There was a post, either it was yesterday or today. Chris Brown is talking about the missing children. Go check that short out. If you did not know, They're talking about Target and Ultra. In regards to Ultra is removing themselves from the Target stores. So go check those out. It's all over there. So if I can please get 104 people to hit the subscribe button and thank you. 104 people to please hit subscribe and thank you. Also, continue to double tap the screen to hit the subscribe button and hit the likes. Let's get the likes up. If you're watching from a phone, press 1. Double tap the screen. Let's get the likes up. Double tap the screen. Let's get the likes up. To hit the like is free. There are memberships over there, so feel free to hit the membership button. But I thank everyone for being here, and I thank everyone for subscribing. I appreciate you all. I was off, and I did not do any videos in regards to live videos Saturday, Sunday, so I had to come live today. So I thank everyone for being here. Whether you think this is a distraction or not, you know, we have covered in regards to the list. We have covered that. We've talked Maxwell. I've done a few videos regarding that. Go check that video out. There's a short over there regarding that. Many people are speaking up about her being moved to a different location. Some of the inmates are not happy about that. And allegedly they changed the level in regards to being able to have her moved. So go check that video out as well. But I thank everyone for being here. I appreciate everyone for being here. If you did not hit subscribe, please hit subscribe. If you already hit subscribe, thank you. We talk hot topics, trending topics, but there's been a lot going on in regards to Trump, so we've been covering it. I mainly do hot topics, trending topics in regards to celebrity news, but what's going on in the country is pretty big, so that's why we've been covering it. But it was a nice break. We covered a lot in regards to Diddy, in regards to whether Trump was going to pardon him or not. And many people are saying, at first he said he was thinking about it. Then he heard what Diddy had said about him. So now it's like, will he, won't he? And did he use that as a distraction as well in regards to the list? But yeah, there's a lot going on. And many people are saying, how could Maxwell be relocated to a different location? Even though, and this is the biggest thing too, that a lot of people want to know about. Allegedly, Maxwell gave up 100 different names. Who are those names? And are they going to cover that? Who are those people, the names of that she gave up? And why couldn't we see that live stream and that interview? Why couldn't we see the interview regarding that? So a lot of people are asking for the Maxwell interview and what was stated in that interview or conversation. So there's that. Will they give up the names of who's concerning? And then this is the biggest thing. If they don't give up the names, many well-known people are scared whether they're one of the 100 people that were named. So maybe they don't want to give it up. Maybe they want to do an investigation on those people. So we may never get those 100 names that Maxwell gave up, but we'll see. We'll see. Thanks for being here, everyone. If you didn't subscribe, please hit the subscribe button. It's just one click. If you didn't hit the subscribe, please subscribe. It's just one click. Continue to hit the like button, everyone. I thank everyone for being here. Please subscribe. I need about 50 people to hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit a certain quota today. And if 50 people hit that subscribe button, we'll hit that quota. If you already subscribed, thank you. If you already hit the like button, thank you. Double tap that screen to continue to hit the like. Okay, everyone, I have some business to take care of. I appreciate everyone. Well, I won't go into that. But yeah, thank you guys for being here. Copyright disclaimer, under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. Fair use is used permitted by a copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged in our opinion and for entertainment purposes only. I hope everyone has a great day. Focus on healthy, safe relationships. Be around people that's loving, kind, and respectful. Are you guys doing anything interesting today? Let me know in the comments. Are you guys doing anything interesting today? Let me know in the comments. If you're new, where you're watching from, press 3 if you're new, where you're watching from. Press 5 if you've been here before and where you're watching from. Thanks for being here. I'm just looking in the comments. Thanks for being here, everyone. Many people feel there's a lot of distractions going on. They just want the list given, and they want those 100 names that she released in the conversation / interview. Will we ever know what names she gave up? Thanks for being here, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Will we ever know what that conversation and the names she gave up? Thanks for being here, everyone. Have a great day. Be blessed. Goodbye.